go out there and help an old lady across the street. You know, some people who go and who go and volunteer their time at a food shelter. You know, people who go volunteer their time at an after-school program. Right? For me, that's the win-win. It's not just voting. Like, are you doing any of that? You know, the majority of voters are doing any of that.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because
I always present that argument. You know, and with many other arguments, many other kind of facts and stuff that I have behind it. When people bring up, you know, the question of me not participating in politics, and at the same time too, do I think that is hindering something? You know, I think that this country will run without a government. You know, and so people are like, I don't think that that's going to happen. It's like, well, I think that it could. I think that if the government went away, it's not like everybody's going to just downgrade into barbarians overnight. You know, people will find a way to unite, you know, and do for themselves and commune and look out for their own best interests as well as everybody else's. So I think there's certain kind of hypocrisy, certain kind of fantasies and myths that we have to kind of remove and look at things honestly.
Right.
You know? And at the end of the day, if a candidate came that I really felt was, you know, worthy of my voucher, my personal voucher, and I'm going to hold him personally accountable for the things that he said he was going to do, then I'll vote 4 or 5 times.
Okay, all right, great. I think that definitely answers our question. You know what I wanted to talk about? You know, your influence on your fans. You have a lot of people who love your music. You had 32,000 who signed a petition, and another 1,000 who protested in front of the record label. Right? They created what's called a Fiasco Friday.
Yeah.
That was very impressive. You really touch your fans in a way that a lot don't. So, you know, tell us about that. How do you feel about your fans standing up for you in that way?
Well, as clarification, it was 1,000 people who RSVP'd to come down and protest, but in the midst, they actually got the demands of their protest answered, which was to get a release date for the album. And in light of that, 250 people actually still came out as far as like kind of a celebration / protest kind of thing. So it wasn't like 1,000 kids, but it was definitely 1,000 people who claimed that they would come down if a release date wasn't received.
Yeah. And it was because of them, right, that the record label finally released your album?
You say what now?
It was because of that movement that the record label finally released your album. Is that correct?
Yeah, that had a lot to do with it, the petition, as well as the threat of protest, you know, and then the actual protest itself, you know, because at the end of the day, you can't say that it didn't, because it got a release date at a point where we didn't get a release date for like 2 years, just doing regular kind of back and forth business, install tactics, and all this other kind of stuff on both sides of the fence.
Right.
So it definitely played a major role in getting it out. And I talk to those people. You know, I see those people who actually put the protest together. You know, they beyond that, they started something called the Fiasco Street Team, which is like, you would think that it would be like this normal kids going up putting up posters and passing out flyers, but they're the Fiasco Street Team, and from their definition and the way they built it was, you know, they're sending books to prison. You know, they're mobilizing for like food drives and stuff like that. You know, any way that they can mobilize as far as volunteerism in any way possible. You know, and so it's like that's the Fiasco Street Team. That's who my fans are. You know, people who are kind of active like that. So it's cool. You know, it's dope to see that kind of support and to know that you kind of motivate people to the point where they go out there and they actually do, you know, something in their communities to better the world.
Okay. You know what? John Alston is going to chime in, my other co-host, and he just wants to join in the conversation and ask you a few questions.
Oh, yeah. I love that. You know, you had so much support, and there are a lot of people who like what you're doing. And, you know, and I don't think, you know, it's necessarily like because of a protest, but it's just beautiful music, and sometimes it sounds like jazz. And the question is like, after so much support, a successful album, some issues, you know, with the record label, where do you go from here? Like, what's next?
Put out another album.
Put out another one?
It's that simple. Whatever else happens, you know, in the midst of everything that's going on, you know, I started an online book club called The Readers. I got fed up with this situation with ALEC. You guys are aware of ALEC? Like this collective of corporations and different state legislatures that get together to actually write policy. You know, to write the policy that our congressmen and our state representatives and everything vote on, like actually corporations and these weird foundations and think tanks behind it. So in response to that, I started a think tank called the ZFF, which is like a civilian open source think tank, you know, to kind of I look at like the institutions that are out there, you know, that some consider the institutions of oppression, or some people consider just regular institutions of government. And I think, like, how come we as a people don't have anything like that? You know, or do we have anything like that? You know, let's ask the question and see what response we get. You know, so started things like that, little initiatives. Picked up on my Lupe Fiasco Foundation, which is something we do based out of Chicago, but that we connect and network with foundations and different people all over the world to just inspire and help. You know, as help as much as offering free food and free meals for people, down to setting up different creative programs and different stuff like that, and foreign exchange kind of things, kids from different hoods or connecting them to different people across the world. You know, is that on that kind of personal, you know, social side, and then as far as the music, it's just, you know, put out albums. You know, go in the studio, write some songs, put out some albums is what's next.
Oh, that's great, because there were rumors that you said that this was going to be your last album, so I'm glad that there's going to be a lot more music that comes.
I didn't say a lot more.
Well, we're hoping a lot more. Yeah, we got a whole lot more albums come out.
Exactly. You know, you stated that you have an affinity towards and a love for the youth. So I'm just going to ask you to go ahead and, you know, give us a message or, you know, any advice you would like to share with college students. This is a college radio station. Any advice you would like to share with college students with regard to the pursuit of their passion? What do you have to say to them?
The pursuit of their passion. I don't know. Do what you want. You know, if your passion is going to the military, I would say don't do that. I would say
okay.
Abandon your ROTC program.
But specifically, the reason why I asked that question was because, you know, it took you a minute to really decide what your passion was and then to pursue it. And, you know, sometimes it takes a minute for a lot of us to, you know, find that place. So, you know.
Not for me. Not for me. I kind of knew what I wanted to do early on. You know,
okay.
I knew I wanted to make music, you know, and I knew that I wanted to change the world. You know, I knew that there was something wrong, you know, and I wanted to help change it, you know, help make it better. So, you know, I just didn't know how that was going to be. You know, I didn't know what level that was going to be at. I never thought for a million years that I would be at the level as far as where I'm at right now, as far as music. And even socially, you know, the way I'm regarded in certain social circles, either as a pariah, you know, or either as somewhat of a, you know, a freedom fighter in some instances. But, you know,
right.
To be honest, it's just, you know what, at the end of the day, I would say this: know what you want. You know, that clears the path and shuts down a lot of the noise when you know exactly what you want. You know, not like guessing, not
right.
like being dishonest with yourself. Not kind of like living up to somebody else's expectations. But I think once you really embrace exactly what you want for yourself and out of life, that, you know, life will take care of itself. You know, life will unroll for you. You know, God willing, and you know, you'll pursue what you want, and you'll have what's meant for you.
Right, okay, that sounds good. Now, because I know I was reading where it said that you said music is the bait in order to get people to hear what you have to say. So you're obviously very passionate about getting the message out and enlightening people. So I really thank you for that advice. Also, we have a couple of fans, you know, Twitter, they just have a few Twitter questions. You mind answering the Twitter questions for your fans? I'm gonna bring on Seema, if you don't mind, and she'll just ask you those quick questions. Is that okay with you? Okay, great.
Yeah.
How you doing, Lupe? This is Seema. Good talking with you. So our first listener, his name is Ibrahim, and he wanted to know, he says, as a person from the Gaza Strip, what motivates you to rap about the Middle East, he's wondering?
Growing up, being Muslim, I was born Muslim. A lot of the, you know, whenever we went to the mosque or, you know, wherever my father would take us to, like, their friend's house or something like that, it just so happened that a lot of my friends, as a child, and family friends, even to this day, were Palestinian, you know, and had direct connection, you know, to Israel and to Palestine and to Gaza, and to the West Bank and stuff like that, to the point where I remember we went to the mosque one day, and there was a guy who was, I guess it came back from the Middle East. He had been shot through his mouth. You know, and he had the big bandages in his me as a little kid looking like, wow, I wonder what happened to that dude. And it was like he got shot through the mouth.